We're rolling? Awesome, okay. So, hi Mike, would you just like to introduce yourself and say what your current role at Cheshire Phoenix is?
Right, my name's Mike Burton, and my current role at Cheshire Phoenix is I'm a director of the club, responsible for the junior programme and the match day clinics where we invite primary school children to come to games.
So how long have you been involved with the club?
Since 1988.
Wow, long time ago. So,
but I was, sorry,
that's all right.
if you take the club back a bit further than that, I got involved in 1970 in basketball in the town.
Wow. So what was that? So were you volunteering? How did you start off?
What happened was I went to college to train to be a teacher, and I had that long summer before I started teaching, so I went and worked Camp America. I was a soccer coach, so I went to America for 3 months, and while I was there I got interested in basketball. I just really found that I just loved the game. So I came back here, and at the time the only sports hall in the town was at the youth centre, and I went and had a chat with the youth leader there, a lady called Enid Hessler, and asked her whether I could start a basketball team. And she said, we haven't got a space for a basketball team, but we've got a space for a volleyball team, but I can't find anyone to run a volleyball team. I said, well, I'm a qualified volleyball coach, so I could do that, but if it doesn't work, and I didn't think it would work because there's no volleyball teams in the area to play against. If it doesn't work, can I run a basketball team? She said, well, will you try your best? I said, yeah. So I tried really hard to get a volleyball team. It didn't work, so she let me start a basketball team.
No way. So how did it start from there? Did you scout all the players yourself? Did you just put up flyers?
I knew there was lots of players around that had finished school and had nowhere to play locally, and there were 4 divisions of the Merseyside League, so it was quite strong in the area. So we started playing friendly. I gathered guys together. We started playing friendlies, and then we entered the 4th division of the Merseyside League.
Wow, and you worked your way up from there?
Yeah, we won the 4th division in the first year. It was interesting because I can remember really well some of the teams we played against, and we played against Walton Buccaneers. But what I couldn't get my head around when I saw the fixtures was we had 2 away games and didn't have a home game, and that was because it was Walton Jail and they weren't allowed to play away. So we went there and played them twice in their place, and so we won the league in the first year, and then went into Division 3 and then won that, and Division 2 and won that, and then went into Division 1, and there were some really, really good teams in Division 1. So it took us about 4 years to get up there, but some of the teams in Division 1 had National League players because there was a local franchise called the Bruno Roughcutters that played at Deeside Leisure Centre, and they had all the top players. What happened was I was teaching in a primary school. I did 2 years in a primary school, and then I was headhunted by the Catholic High School to come and be a PE teacher at the high school, and coach the basketball team. They wanted me to coach the basketball team because of the success of a local club by then. So the basketball really took off at the high school. We had some outstanding players, and we were doing really well locally, but I couldn't get an England player. Schoolboy international. So what I decided in 1978 was I'd take a group of kids. I had a really good group of kids, and I'd take them to America for 3 weeks on a trip. So we raised money for 10 months. We raised £10,000, 1978, and took the year 9s, 18 of them. We took them to America. So we went to the Poconos, to Bill Foster's camp from Duke, and had 2 weeks there, and then we had a week touring around. And such was the success of going to America and working really hard to get to America, that 4 of the boys got in the England team. So the first international was in Coventry, and it was England versus Ireland. And I took 2 coach loads down from the Catholic High to watch the game, and all 4 of the boys started the game, which was just amazing, really. And and we ended up with having the captain and the vice captain of England, and in fact the vice captain is now the chairman of the club. So wow. Gary Thomas was vice captain of England in 1979, and he's now the chairman of the club, and his son is the coach of the club.
So what are the names of all the 4 players that got to the...
4 players that got to the England were Gary Thomas, Ian Rooney, who's now living in America, is a millionaire, John Dowdall, and Phil Wilson, who still comes to games. He comes to every game. Phil Wilson, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So at what point did the team become professional?
Right, well, in 1979 we had our first... We started a team called St Saviours as a result of the local team was Ellesmere Port Pioneers when we first started playing. Name of the local newspapers. We thought it might help us with publicity. And so then we were sponsored by St Saviour's Club, just a church club. And the team did really well. And by 1978 we had 5 teams, including a team in the Central England League, which was one step below National League. And so in '79 we brought an American over here called Pete Dufour, and he played for St Saviour's, and the team did really well. And the team was doing well, and we became Ellesmere Port Basketball Club in 1984. But I moved to Manchester as assistant coach to Manchester Giants in the top league. So I then left the club, and I was there from '84 till '88, '89, and then came back here after 5 years working as an assistant coach with 3 different American coaches. Just really wanted to learn the trade really with the top coaches. So then I was asked to come back by the then chairman, which was Joe Lofthouse, come back to the club and coach the team. So I came back, and the team were then in the 2nd division, National League. And we had an all-English policy, no Americans. And we won the 2nd division, even though we were playing against teams who had Americans. And we went up into the top league, which was the BBL. And we went in with a view to going without Americans. So we played our first 13 games and lost them all. And then did a U-turn and brought in 2 Americans, just to be competitive. And then, from then on, the team has been in the league ever since. So in 1991 we're in the BBL, and we've been in the top league ever since. But it changed its name from the Jets to Phoenix about 6 years ago.
So what would you say your highlights have been?
In 2002, when we won everything, the year they called it the Jet Wash. So we won the league, we won the national trophy, we won the cup, we won the playoffs. That was an amazing year for the club. Personally, one of the highlights for me was being involved in the England senior men's programme in European Championships, and we were drawn against in a pool with Denmark, Bulgaria and Russia. So we ended up going to Moscow in 1991, and we had a really good England team, and we were leading the whole game and then just lost it in the last 20 seconds. So we lost by 3 in the last 20 seconds. So then the year after we had to play them at home. So we played Russia at home. We knew we had to win by 4. Played them in Manchester, and with 2 seconds left we were 2 up, and one of our players got fouled and went to the foul line, and he scored both baskets. So we won the game by 4. So that was a real, that was an amazing night that night. I can remember it well, I think.
If you were to put your dream Cheshire Phoenix team together now with all players that were all at their peak, who would you choose?
Oh, wow. Oh,
Big question, I know.
I'll get into trouble for this one, won't I? Well, let me say first of all, I think we've got an outstanding guard here already in Parker Jackson-Cartwright. But it could be a close thing between him and John Thomas, called Mookie Thomas, who was in the Jet Wash team. He was an outstanding guard. So I think I'd probably pick John Thomas as the guard. Kenny Gregory was an amazing 2-man, 6'4". If he'd have been 6'6", 6'7", he'd have been in the NBA. He was an unbelievable player. So I'd pick Kenny Gregory. You'd have to have Piero Cameron. Piero Cameron was captain of the team in the Jet Wash year. He was a New Zealander. He went to the World Championships with New Zealand, and in the semi-final they beat America, and he got in the All-Star 5 for the World Championships. This was in Indianapolis, and the other 4 players in the All-Star 5 were all NBA players. And he actually got drafted after that to the Chicago Bulls, but didn't actually make the NBA. So you'd have to have Piero Cameron. And then John McCord was just an amazing foreman. He could do it all. He could mark anybody. So he could mark a guard, he could mark a big man, he could get to the basket, he could shoot the ball. And then you'd have to go with Lowen Myers, I think. Lowen Myers, 6'10", incredible player. He played NBA for 5 years, and then he'd had a serious family bereavement of a child and stopped playing for 18 months, and just put on a lot of weight and lost interest and wanted to get back into it. And our coach managed to persuade him to come and play for us for £200 a week, and he'd been on 2 million 18 months earlier. So he was on £200 a week, and just an amazing. He did things on a basketball court I've never seen before. So that would probably be my All-Star 5. That was off the top of my head. Yeah, I hadn't prepared
that was really impressive. So, bringing it back to today, what's the usual day for you like? What do you do for the club in general?
Well, I'm a retired teacher now. I retired in 2008. What did I do yesterday? I drove around a load of schools, getting interviews with the sports coordinators in primary schools, so I can do assemblies next week and invite the children to come to a game on the 22nd of March. Today, I've been around all the schools that are doing the clinic this weekend and sorted out all the returns, and we've got 137 at the moment kids coming to the game on Sunday. So we bus them in and we coach them. We give them an hour and a half's coaching, we give them a meal, they meet the players, they watch the game, and their parents and family get tickets at a vastly reduced rate. And that's basically just our community work. It's spreading the name of the club and the interest in the community, and that's why we're getting more and more people. Because when we moved from the Northgate Arena, it was quite a task, because this place is over twice the size of the Northgate Arena. So to try and fill this place was quite a task in a town the size of Ellesmere Port with 55,000 people. We're getting better gates than teams like Sheffield, who've got over 300,000 people. So it's the hard work that we do in the community that does that, and I really enjoy doing that. So yeah.
Okay, so shall we go through the scrapbooks?
Well,
so you say your mother made this?
My mother just started collecting paper cuttings and just putting it together from 1970. So the first article is about how I started, how I went to America and got interested in basketball there, and came back and did and started a basketball team. And then there's lots of pictures of the local team that I coached, and the club sides. So I started teaching at the Catholic High in 1972, and then some of the players, as they started to come through from the Catholic High, started to play club basketball. And then we did a basketball camp for years at the Catholic High. So we'd have like 200 kids for a week in the summer, and they'd sleep in the classrooms, and we did basketball all day long from like 8:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And we'd feed them, we'd bring cooks in and feed them, and just play lots and lots of basketball. And that's the St Saviour's basketball team that we had. And there's 4 lads who were selected for the Catholic Schools of Great Britain. This is before we got any England internationals. So we had lads who were playing for Catholic Schools of Great Britain in European Championships. Just generally, lots and lots of articles in the 70s. That's a basketball camp again. Just loads of this is an interesting one. This is a load of boys from St Malachy's School in Belfast who came over in 1998 when the Troubles were on in Belfast, and they managed to get a grant if there was educational. So McCormick Spices, who were here in Ellesmere Port, let them come along and learn about the spices there. They played in a basketball tournament with us, and our under-15s this year went to a tournament in St Malachy's in Belfast in 2020. So they came here in 1998, and we've ended up going back there.
How did they do?
They won the tournament. Yeah, they did really well. And that was when we went to America in 1978. Sorry, that's 1978, not 98. 1978. So that's when we went to America in 1978. I was saying with the 4 England players. They were all in there. So yeah, it's just my mother collecting all these pictures of the teams that we had and all the local press and local coverage that we got. When we went to a tournament in Belgium with the St Saviour's team. That's going to Holland, to a tournament in Holland. So we travelled a lot, but you have to do that if you're going to be successful. You have to broaden your horizons.
How did you fund it? Was it all fundraising?
Yeah, loads of fundraising. So when we went to America, we raised £10,000. 5,000 of that was collecting newspapers. So every month we used to drive around with the parents in the cars, and we used to collect newspapers from all the households in Ellesmere Port. And the week after, we put a slip through. We have great big skips on the schoolyard from a paper company called Maybanks in Liverpool, and they'd take them and weigh them, and then they'd send us a chit. And so we'd telling us how many tons of paper we'd got, and then we'd put this letter through saying, thanks to your help, we got 24 tons of paper last week, and that was worth £750 to us. Thanks for your help. We'll be back again on the weekend of such and such. Please leave your papers tied in bundles outside your gate. And we just drive around and pick them all up. And we just did a whole day of that once a month. So yeah, that's Joe Lofthouse, who was the first chairman of the team. And he was the chairman. He brought me here. He had a coach company and he sponsored the team. And he brought me here to coach, and we ended up having a great friendship together. He's moved now, he's living down on the south coast, but we still see each other, we play golf together. Yeah, my daughter. Yeah, there were good times.
Do you have a favourite season in particular that you remember? Anything?
Well, it's got to be the jet wash year.
Yeah.
Just has to be. That was just an amazing year.
Did publicity and everything else improve after that year?
Yeah, it was pretty good. We've had a really good following. It was tough because we started in Ellesmere Port, and we started in the old sports centre, the Epic, and then for some mysterious reason, they took the seats. They had bleacher seating at one end, on one side, and they took them out and put squash courts in. The team manager. The manager of the centre was a squash player, just funnily enough. So we took the seats out, so we couldn't play there. So we had to go to the Northgate Arena. Mm-hmm. So I went to the Northgate Arena, and then we were basically asked by Ellesmere Port Council about 5 years ago if we would be interested in coming back, because we were building this new sports centre. So we got right behind it. We managed to get the Sports Council to put £1 million into this place, because it cost 15 million to build. The Sports Council put £1 million in, providing we were here, which was great for us and great for the town and the centre. So now we play our games here, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to play here. It's a great arena.
And you get to fill the seats as well. It's always very full.
Yeah.
What involvement do you have with the first team? You know, the actual Cheshire Phoenix.
Well, prior to this year, I was assistant coach. I've had 10 years of being head coach, but I've been assistant coach to all the coaches since then. So Robbie Pears, who had that fantastic spell in the early 2000s when we won 7 trophies, Paul Smith, who won a trophy as well, and Billy Singleton when Billy was a player coach, and then when Ben Thomas took over as well, I did it briefly, and Ben was my assistant, and he could see he was really good. So Ben's now taken over, and this is the first year I haven't been assistant coach. I'm 72 now. I just wanted a break, but I'm still involved with the junior program. I still coach the under-14s team in the Premier League here in the club. We've got 9 junior teams, and we've got the outreach into all the schools in the area. So this year we're involved with 150 primary schools in the area, and we go into those schools and do different things with them.
So you actually met Ben Thomas and James Bryce in schools, didn't you teach them? Yeah.
They were both in my, went to Catholic high school, and they're both in my team. They both went to national final. In 2005, there were 8 different competitions for schools. There was under 14, under 15, under 16, and under 19 boys and girls. And in 2005, we were in every final. So as we Port Catholic High School, we were in every single final, and we won 5 of them, and we were runners-up in the other 3. Unfortunately for Ben and James, their team lost in the final by 7. But the interesting thing was, they lost to a team from Manchester. I mean, we played teams from London and Plymouth and all over the place, but they ended up playing a team called Reddish Vale from Stockport in Manchester. And the coach was a guy called Mike Briggs, and Mike had gone to Chester College, and I was mentoring students from Chester College, so they'd send me students who were doing on teaching practice, and they sent me Mike Briggs. And so Mike came to our school and learnt basketball at the school, and then when he left and he got a job back in his hometown of Stockport, he started doing the basketball there, and we ended up playing him in the final, and we lose to him. And I had really, really mixed feelings. I don't like losing, but it was great to see somebody that I'd mentored win a national title. So yeah, it's interesting.
So what do you think has made you stick around for such a long time with the Cheshire Phoenix, or the Cheshire Jets as they used to be, or the Ellesmere Port basketball team? Why have you stuck around so long?
Well, I was brought up in the town. I went to school in the town, played rugby in the town, played basketball in the town, taught in the town. Somebody once said to me that you'll know you've been in a school a long time when you start to teach the children of people that you've taught. Not true, actually. It's even more so when you start to teach the grandchildren of the children that you taught. I did teaching practice at Ellesmere Port Catholic High before it was the Catholic High, when it was called Our Ladies Secondary School, in 1969. And I was still teaching there on supply after I'd retired in 2011. So I taught for 6 decades, 6 different decades I taught at Catholic High. And I've always been involved in basketball, and I've always been involved in the town. So they're the 2 reasons why I'm still involved with.
So it wasn't quite the same when you were in Manchester?
I went there to learn. I went there because they had top-notch, top-flight basketball with really good American coaches. So I worked with 3 American coaches, one of whom ended up being the most successful coach in the country at the time, and coached the England team. His name was Kevin Cadle, and he asked me to be his assistant. So that's why I went to Russia as assistant coach in the coaching program of the national team, senior men.
Where would you want Cheshire Phoenix to be in 5 years as the club?
I'd want to see them filling this place. So much so that at times, if they've got a really, really big game, they have to hire the Echo Arena in Liverpool because they can't get enough people in here. I'd like to see them